And time again for your Type 40 Live extra reaction editions of the live stream Doctor Who magazine show, all across your view screen on Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook, talking all things Doctor Who. These bonus editions dedicated to those brand new episodes currently dropping and screening same time globally. He's out for the count. Was that a knockout? Got a lot to talk about as season 2 of all new Doctor Who makes its way to its conclusion. We'll be making our minds up and closing it all down maybe with the Interstellar Song Contest. Our initial reactions and reviews. Let battle commence. Yes. Well. Where do we want to start with this? It's actually looking somewhat less spooky in the console room for the moment. That's probably going to change when we bring in the panel, fill it up with people, with faces, with voices and opinions too, because that's, of course, why you're here, isn't it? Hello, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Type 40 Live. And where do you want to start with that little lot? We'll find out who you are in a moment or two and what you've got to say as well. That's right after we've all reconnected and touched the surface, at least, of all of that, everything they managed to pack into that 47 minutes or so. There's a hell of a lot to cover. Stick with us. First of all, let's see what on earth is the retro doc Gary Akers wearing this time.
Hello, everybody. How are you? I wanted to get into the spirit of this amazing episode. What do you think? I mean,
very Crocodile Rock.
After the stream tonight, I'm going to be. I got a job as a disco ball at the place down the street.
They're going to suspend you from the ceiling, are they? Somewhere?
Yes, that's right. That's right. And these were on loan from Sir Elton. So I got to get those back by tomorrow.
Yeah, he says he's retired, but I'm never convinced that that's going to stick for too long.
That's
How you feeling, Gary? Had a good day?
Until I turned on the TV. No, I was having a great day until I turned on the TV.
Excellent. Can't wait to hear what you've got to say. As ever, thanks for making time for us. Who else is here? Our real life time traveler, no less. Glasses, the motif of the stream this time, and no one told me, Matt Pot.
Yeah, sorry, my retinas have been burned. So I'm going to a dark area at the moment.
Oh, I see.
A little bit too glittery, I'm afraid.
See, I don't put those on unless I've got a hangover or something like that.
No, well, that's what I always keep these handy for.
I can't believe we managed to get you back because you were sitting out the season.
I felt like watching car crash television tonight. And boy, did it deliver.
I think Matt has spent the last 48 hours fixing his mute button too.
Yeah. Shush. Yes, I actually found where it was this time now, so I should.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
there we go. He's firing on all cylinders. Let's hope it's not the burping cylinders that we get cleared out for another round as the conversation goes on. Let's bring on Charlotte as well. Yes, she's back. I think she dipped out of the stream last time, shortly before Matt let rip. So her eardrums, at least, are absolutely fine. What her opinions are going to be, we'll find out when we go out, won't we?
I always miss out the fun stuff when I go on streams.
Charlotte, you need to go listen to like the last 6 minutes of Thursday's stream.
It's sort of like the bad boys when the girls go.
I did see the picture that was a South Park shooting, which I agree with you guys. That was my favourite.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
That was very well done.
Yeah, when you see the real one, it's not as much fun, is it? When you see how he really is. No. We'll have to put that back on screen later on. So how have you been, Charlotte? You've been soaking up the sun a little bit. Has it been, because it's been raining here, but it seems that you've got caught a few rays.
Well, It was cloudy, and so I had a hoodie, and then I took the dog out, and I was like absolutely sweating and horrible. So that's why I'm now in a summer top.
There you go. It's that time of year, isn't it? FA Cup finals, Eurovision Song Contests, for real. It's all sort of kicking off, isn't it? With Doctor Who sandwiched in between. I don't know how that's worked out for them, whether the FA Cup overran or underran, or how that goes.
It was on time.
Oh,
it's all happened. It's all happened as it was meant to happen.
Yes.
What our international jury here is going to make of it, heaven knows. But this was obviously, gentlemen, this was your first experience of this national treasure, Ryland Clark, wasn't it? So that's probably why Matt's in the dark glasses, I would say, because of the teeth alone.
Teeth. Well, they weren't his real teeth, were they? Apparently,
nothing about this guy is real. Nothing about him at all. Yes, so that's so much to talk about. And we do have more panelists as well. So from the regular panel, we have been joined once again wearing Captain America's shield. What's it shielding him from? Is that locking the stable door after the horse has bolted, David Milling?
Probably, but I thought I'd wear something with a bit of merch that's worth celebrating. Rather than tonight, so I just thought, hey, why not wear a bit of Captain America?
I'm amazed your walls are clean. I expected some little flecks of chocolate where Maltesers have bounced off your LCD screen and sort of hit the back wall.
You may say that. The shop has run out of Maltesers, so I've had to buy some Cadbury Buttons orange flavoured.
You have to slum it with the buttons.
I had to slum it with the buttons. So they're there to sort of prevent me from going into a sugar low as a result of my activities in front of the television earlier, which sounds a bit dodgy, but it wasn't.
keep that to yourself.
Sorry, I've done a Charlotte. Sorry, I do apologise.
We've prized you away from the Eurovision Song Contest itself, David. Obviously, you were going to watch that until you found out that Ncuti Gatwa wasn't going to be reading the results from the British jury. They've replaced him in the finish at the last minute with certainly a far prettier sight, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So I had a big crush on her back in the early 2000s. I tell you, big massive crush. I had all her DVDs and singles, and geez,
she's great.
Now so she's on the other side, but yeah, no, back
she's
then,
definitely she's hit the wall big time, but she's still got a great voice. I mean, the BBC press office put this out just after our stream on Thursday. Due to unforeseen circumstances, unfortunately, Ncuti Gatwa is no longer able to participate as spokesperson during the grand final this weekend. However, we are delighted to confirm that BBC Radio 2's very own Friday night kitchen disco diva, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, will be presenting the jury results live from the UK. And then Sophie herself goes on to say, I love Eurovision. It's a privilege to be part of the final. What an honour. What an honour it is to be wheeled in when the other bloke
in
can't
the last minute.
2 minutes after Israel were confirmed as a finalist.
That's right.
Funny that.
Oh.
Yeah, literally 2 minutes.
Now, I did catch a bit of speculation about that, but I couldn't quite work out what they were saying because I've sort of dialed back on following Ncuti. So you believe that he's exited this for some sort of political reason? He's sitting it out.
Absolutely.
Well, the line was that at 12:18, Israel made it to the finals, and at 12:20, Ncuti all of a sudden had another, something else on his calendar.
What a prick. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'd like to know what Rabbi thinks about this.
It was, I messaged him, and he wasn't too happy.
Well, the rabbi from another planet may be joining us later on. Who knows? We will be joined by more voices from across podcasting and YouTube, as always, depending on what sort of frame of mind they're in and whether they can sort of make the time, I think. But the invitations have been sent out. So it's been, so everything has run according to plan, as it turns out. Eventually, anyway, the episode dropped at 8 a.m. UK time and simultaneously on Disney+. It was scheduled to be on at 7:10 again on BBC One this evening, but there was that stipulation, wasn't there, that if the FA Cup final overrun, that Doctor Who would be sort of would be squeezed out, wasn't there? But everything has gone okay in the end anyway. That would have been unprecedented, obviously, a Doctor Who episode premiering on the iPlayer and sitting there with no actual terrestrial standard broadcast. That would have been interesting. And Russell T Davies claimed that he was sort of semi-excited by that, but then again, he wouldn't he? It was sort of out of his control. Another thing that was out of his control, I think, was when people chose to watch and how quickly or not. He put out something on social media, a reel, I suppose you'd call this, Matt, where he was pleading, wasn't he, with people to just watch it as soon as possible because there would be such spoilers that if you didn't watch it as soon as possible, somebody would blow it for you either on social media or in the real world. He's still under the impression that millions of people watch this show.
Yeah,
I just hope everybody
was pre-record.
I just hope everybody tuned over to BBC Two to watch that documentary on badgers or whatever it is that they were putting over there.
I don't think I've ever seen
the mating rituals of badgers.
I was watching Celebrity Deal or No Deal.
I don't think I've ever seen a creative, a staff member, a backroom boy, or a producer, or anybody of this description.
What?
A backroom boy. Somebody works behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Not that kind of backroom.
Not the backroom boy.
Anybody who's basically not on camera make a public statement like this before on behalf of the show. Russell T Davies has never been backward in coming forward as such, but he's not a star, is he? But it's almost in doing this, it's accepted that we will somehow listen to him, Charlotte, rather than Ncuti Gatwa or any of the cast. They could have got Anita Dobson to do this, couldn't they? Over the back fence or something in character as Mrs. Flood. That would have.
Well, at least you would have had a bit more screen time. No, here's the thing.
True.
I think he did this last year for the finale. I'm sure he did like a little
Yes,
video.
he was at the
saying,
console though. Remember,
Yeah.
Charlotte? Yeah.
But I just find it funny, like you said, that he feels like he has to do these little PSAs of, oh, you have to watch it as soon as possible because you'll get spoiled.
And we're desperate.
And it's like, if the show's at its height of its power, then yeah. But right now, it's pretty much lowest sort of interest level I've ever seen with the show.
He can't let his fans down, Charlotte. He knows everybody wants to know what he himself thinks. So yeah, there you go.
Do you think that's what it was? Really, he was. Do you think that's what it was? Really, that he was kind of working out the averages and thinking, well, there's a good chance that we won't get the kind of audience that we're used to with this. So if we encourage people to head to iPlayer right away, there won't be any lag. There'll be as less lag as possible. We can maybe pull something out of the fire if Doctor Who was squeezed off terrestrial TV. We'll never know now, will we? But it's how soon in advance they would have known about that. How early is the FA Cup date planned? I don't know. But the Eurovision Song Contest, David, that usually is set a good year in advance, isn't it? Because they announce who the new host nation's going to be and things like that.
Well, they've got to stream it. They've got to synchronize the broadcasting across all of Europe, Israel, and Australia, bizarrely. So it has to be synchronized and planned, and because it's a massive event. So it has to be well ahead of the schedules. But for me, to run the risk of, if I'm the head of something, of a program or anything, and to run the risk that it might not happen, that millions have been spent on it, rather than waiting a week and taking that gamble. What a reckless gamble to make. Because if Man City had managed to scuff in a shinned goal in the 100th minute, 90th plus 10th minute of injury time, as literally as late as that, at 6:45, Doctor Who would not be transmitting 20 minutes later. That is one hell of a risk to have to take. And it is a really reckless one. And it just describes this utter cluster of what this production has become. It is an utter cluster.
I must say that the level of sort of incompetence on display has been staggering so far. But in the end, the Interstellar Song Contest has screened. We're going to tell you our opinions, our raw reactions to that 47 minutes worth of brand new Doctor Who. All those jaw droppers, I'll say, politely. And you can join in too, of course, in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X as ever here. Okay, what else? Yes, whilst I'm at it, I want to remind you about our guest, our sometime co-panelist on the channel, the YouTube and Rumble channels, got Ian Levine, Uncensored, and Postal this week. A feature-length conversation between myself and the Doctor Who fandom legend, the controversial Ian Levine. Another generous conversation where he pulls no punches whatsoever, but that's why people tune in, isn't it? That's what you expect from Ian Levine, and he doesn't let us down. All that creativity, all those projects, all that love for Doctor Who, as well as plenty of sort of jabs in the ribs at where they could do with picking up the slack. So yeah, get some of that. Ian Levine, Uncensored, and Postal here at Type 40 exclusively. It's enough to bring a tear to your eye, isn't it? As we realise that the end of the season is nigh. It's just a couple of weeks now until it shuts down for however long, which is going to be good news to some. Some people were smiling about the whole thing, whilst others could hit the bottle. I think that lining up a few shorts before you watch this is probably the wisest move when it comes to the mystique surrounding the show. At this time of year, you like to think they're going to build up anticipation and start leaving questions in the air. Doesn't always work out like that, does it? We've got another one waiting to be picked at as well. Dr. Poppy, Captain Poppy. Where's it all going to go? Where's it all going to go?
Welcome to Type 40. Was that good enough? I hope so. Or exterminate, exterminate, exterminate.
I do wish she'd shut up. We're trying to watch the telly. Yes, so Doctor Who has screened another episode tonight. Brand new adventure, a controversial one too. I don't think it's unfair to say, both in the choice of the writer and some of the elements that were included as well. May sit better with some than others. What's the expression? It's be careful. Be careful what you wish for, isn't it? Especially from Doctor Who in 2025. The mission statement is to get Belinda home. And this did pick up on some of that, I feel. We've got the Vindicator being sort of jostled around, haven't we, and onto the floor by Shooty Gat. We're pointed in various different directions. It's more mumbo jumbo, really, but I don't mind a MacGuffin. I don't mind a gadget. It's absolutely fine. It does sort of hang the stories together a little, but it does feel like it was forgotten about for a little while. We do reconnect with that for the Interstellar Song Contest, at least to bookend it in some way. But the general plot is that the Doctor's quest to get Belinda back home to Earth leads to a space station that's hosting the famous song contest. But a harmless night of fun soon becomes a battle to survive. So this is written by Juno Dawson, their first-time writer for Doctor Who on television, responsible for the god-awful Doctor Who dramatic podcast from a couple of years ago, Doctor Who Redacted. If you missed it, don't bother. This was directed by Ben Williams. That's a name I don't recognise from anything else. Maybe he's done 2 or 3 in the season. I don't know. And the producer was Vicky Dello. Quite a big cast for this. Quite a budget too. This was meant to be the most expensive Doctor Who episode of all time, so they told us. And at places that did show, and yet in other places, I felt that it didn't. I said the other night that when they bill something as the most expensive ever, and that we get a lot of that talk from Russell T Davies, don't we? The most this, the biggest that, the hugest, the most unmissable. We get a lot of that. But obviously, when they boast about the amount of money that they forked out on one particular episode, that's going to make us notice and expect to be wowed, I feel, isn't it, Charlotte? And you want to see that opulence. I'm not sure that we did get that with this, though, not consistently.
No, like you said, you could tell there were certain shots which were very effects heavy, that you can tell that's probably where a lot of the budget's gone. Some of the sets look quite impressive, but then other sets were not. It was just corridors and boring. things we've seen plenty in Doctor Who in the
There were
last couple of
resprayed
years.
sets from Joy to the World and The Well again.
Yeah.
In some
And
places.
also with the costuming, some of it was like really over the top, and then other bits of the costume I was like, that looks like they've just dragged it from a rack in the back of the BBC. Like, there's no creativity, there's nothing that screams money. So yeah, I agree, the money was a bit everywhere in different ways in this story.
You won't remember this, Charlotte. Or actually, maybe you will, because I think it ran for years. This set just reminded me of the set of Stars in Your Eyes from ITV from 30 years ago. It just needed a bit of dry ice.
Triangle. Yeah, I can see that.
It's just the same. You can see they got a lot of extras and things in there, and yeah, I suppose it is what it is. And some of the special effects were absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was particularly into the look of the space station from the outside. I wasn't expecting that. I thought that looked terrific, but we don't really see. I suppose we really see much of that either. There was a disconnect for me there between the exterior and the interior. It kind of reminded me of the old days of Babylon 5, Gary, where CGI, computer-generated sort of animation, rather than using models, miniatures, when that was first coming in. It always felt a little detached, and that's how I felt about this. But I do like this design. I think that's quite cool.
And yeah, it's interesting with all of the, I mean, as a piece of art, as a piece of kind of computer design, it's interesting. I think I'd still prefer the space station from Trial of a Time Lord because it was a, practical effect. But yeah, I mean, I really quickly, Dan, I wanted to ask in your initial, something you said just a couple minutes ago, you were describing, you used the phrase, a harmless night of fun becomes a battle to survive. Were you describing the plot or our experience as viewers?
Both.
Okay.
One or the other, I feel. Look, I was quite, earlier on in the week, I was quite open about the fact how not that I just wasn't looking forward to this, but probably for the first time that I can ever remember and recall, I was properly prejudiced against this. I'd been taken to a place where I'd built up a massive wall of reactance to investing in this episode at all. I was watching it out of obligation and with a sense of mild disgust at the fact that they've given one person in particular the opportunity to write for Doctor Who when other people won't get it, who haven't got their publishing history, shall we say, and their dubious character, or their way of being so economical with truths. So this is a series that, and the BBC itself, which holds people to this sort of high moral standard, or so they say, and yet continually they employ people who turn out to be problematic as newsreaders and hosts or actors or whatever, and they're constantly surprised when this happens. And yet here they are. They've recruited and promoted and are furthering the career of someone who, as far as I can see, is a massive liability. So I couldn't get past that. Then there's my own fatigue at the Eurovision Song Contest in itself. I'm just not interested in it. I loved it when I was a kid, but again, it's sort of morphed into something I've got no interest in, David. So all of these things, it was adding up to something that I doubted that I was going to be able to invest in at all.
I think that's part of the problem, really, because
as it turns out, I didn't hate this as much as I thought I would, as much as I was expecting. But that's also a different prospect for thinking for whether I believe it was any good or not. There were high points, but this simply, in my view, wasn't up to scratch in a multitude of ways. Not least of all with the inclusion of Ryland Clark, who couldn't even convince me that in playing Ryland Clark, he was that bad.
No, it was almost a parody of him, which is a bizarre thing to say because the man is one sort of like paradoxical parody in that sort of self. And I mean, I challenged myself to a bit of alliteration to describe how I felt about this episode. And I think the best way I can sum it up how I feel is that it was the most pathetic, pointless, piss-poor, piffle, petulant, perfunctory piece of programming that I have ever borne witness to.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
a lot of peas.
That is a lot of peas, and it was
Taking
a bit of a tongue twister. It is, yeah, exactly. That's my point. And Russell T Davies said it will change the way, it will change everything you know about Doctor Who, and it has. I've now realised that the character I have adored across the 62-year range is nothing but a sadistic, torturing scumbag. And there is no room for that in the show that I love. I'm sorry, I am getting a bit emotional, and I do apologise. But torture can never be justified. And I have seen on social media across the board, on X and Facebook, people trying to defend that torture. Torture is never defensible. But anybody committing torture is never ever defensible. And you know, I'm just frankly disgusted, and it has changed my view of Doctor Who, quite sadly.
I'd forgotten that Russell had said that, because I think for the most part, this is, and despite the budget, I think that, like I say, I think at times it looked incredible. At times it looked quite tawdry. Despite all of that, this was a really kind of basic, run around, kind of undernourished take on sort of Die Hard, but set at the Eurovision Song Contest. But nobody ever really felt like they were in any real danger somehow, Matt. Even when there was thousands of people sort of fired into the sky, I never really believed anybody was in any danger. There was no raising of the heart rate at all. A great many of the characters were, it's not that they were unlikable, they were forgettable. I think I quite like the woman who was the controller of the Eurovision Song Contest.
As soon as the dwarf showed up, I started laughing. No, seriously. As soon as I saw those little ankles in the high heels, I just couldn't stop laughing. I was just like, "Oh, this is going to be a good one."
Well, on this show, they do. I mean, that actress has quite a career. You know, she was in Life's Too Short with Warwick Davis. She's worked with Ricky Gervais. She's recently been slumming it on a really shitty daytime drama called Doctors. But you know, she's got great comic timing, and I thought she was okay, and I was quite interested. And I thought that Freddie Fox as Kid was fantastic. You know, I was riveted by him. Really interesting actor with loads of charisma, but he didn't really say much. He didn't really do a great deal. And
he wasn't menacing, was he?
No, well, I think he was interesting. I was gradually getting, he was sort of roaming around the corners of the set, saying stuff. I mean, the dialogue wasn't particularly good, but I felt he was delivering it quite well. I thought, God, this guy, he's got star quality. So I was always drawn to him, but everybody else was. I mean, there was the perfect couple, the two gay guys who were sort of hanging around. I mean, they weren't remote. They couldn't convince me that they knew one another. Never mind that they were partners, romantic.
They started trying to crack on to Shooty. I was like, in front of each other, and I was like, this is the stereotypical promiscuous gay couple. You know,
what I'm saying is, though, that none of this connected. There were pockets of, like when you watch something like Midnight and the cast, even when people are separated in different rooms, there's a kind of feeling of a company of actors that are working to make something come alive and to convey energy and to add momentum to a plot, to a story. And so it was all, it was all in second gear, never mind in third gear. Disconnected people having different conversations seemingly about different things, Gary, and I couldn't ultimately invest in any of it really, so I latched onto the characters that I did know and I could kind of recognize in an attempt to carry me through for the 40 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to do something if you realize you're going to be struggling, you got to do something to kind of, like you just said, carry it through. My first thought after this episode was over was that now I know how Biff Tannen felt when he slammed into the truck and got covered in manure. I mean, to me, this was honestly televisual sewage. I'd call it garbage, but that would be an insult to garbage. I mean, I thought it had amateurish writing, terrible acting, further proof, as if we needed it, that RTD is, creatively bankrupt. I mean, just cumulatively, everything in here. I mean, this had like the satanic imagery, but let's have them be sympathetic characters or with a sympathetic motivation. As you just said, we got the main two supporting characters are a married gay couple because of course, and they both become attracted to the doctor because of course. I'd do anything for you. We got the pronouns. We got she, her. We got Mavity about 10 million times. We got babes. We got tears. We got actual honey this time, not just calling somebody honey. We got actual honey this time. Everything is amazing. Amazing is the most overused adjective this entire season. Everything is amazing. We got the very, to me, unsubtle Hellions allegory with the descriptions of Hellions. I mean, just to me, the breadth of lack of creativity on display was kind of staggering. It's like, let's call the satanic aliens Hellions from the planet Hellia. Let's have a singer called Lizoko, and then you have those. I was most curious, what I latched onto, Dan, for me, were those green Frankensteins that to me reminded me of that Munsters Today reboot from the 80s, that really cheap Munsters reboot. And it's like we had like 3 of these green Frankensteins walking around. And then to top it all off, we had the great cliche of the single clap at the end, which I thought went out with,
I lost interest
the Breakfast Club or something.
Yeah.
And it's, also, this is 2925. Why is everybody dressed like current day with the t-shirts, the lanyards, the headsets? Did this seem like people were dressed 900 years in the future?
Like I say, some of the production values, and when I use that term, I mean the production design felt threadbare. It felt just not thought through at all, and I don't want to be. In all fairness, I've said my piece about Juno Dawson, my objections there. But looking at the work, away from the person and the work, I don't want to be cruel about this. But if this was, and Juno Dawson hasn't done much work for television. Usually, if we're watching an American show, for example, Charlotte, where there was like 20 episodes in a season, 2025, and there was 1 or 2 written by a new writer, you'd think, well, everybody's got to start somewhere. I like the show. I like the general vibe of it. They've got to bring new people through, and maybe they'll be in time indispensable to this show, and this will be an important stepping stone on a broader career, and they'll grow with the show. But Doctor Who isn't that kind of show. We only get 8 of these every year, every 18 months, sometimes far longer. So each one should really be written by somebody at the top of their game, or at least someone very, very distinctive. I mean, I didn't like what Noah Ellams did last week, but I can't argue it was distinctive. There was just nothing to this, to the point where I do wonder, was Russell... I don't know. I think, what's he thinking?
Well, for me, there was quite a bit of story beats and character beats, which I was like, this is really either simple writing that you can predict it a mile off, or it just happened because it had to. The script demanded of it. And I feel like there was core writing here that was not up to scratch. And like you said, yes, there were some good performances scattered throughout this, but when the dialogue they're being given isn't good, or when I can't buy their motivations, or in some cases when I actually think this harms the character, this actually is damaging to the character to have them do this, for me, that was the issue here. It was, once again, the writing has very much left me wanting here, and the more like certain things have stuck in my head, I'm just like, any other era that would not be allowed to be put on screen. a showrunner would not have allowed some of the stuff in this episode to go in a script.
So we'd got a well-worn plot that had been pared down to its bare minimum. We'd got not just lines that had been stolen from other Doctor Who stories and other fiction, other movies and TV shows. We'd got entire sequences and gimmicks, which we've seen several times in everything from 4 to Doomsday to The Last Jedi. I was reminded of Princess Leia sort of floating frozen in space when they did that to Ryland Clark, which, I'd rather they did that to Ryland Clark than Carrie Fisher, to be fair. But I just felt I'd seen it. And so there was nothing. If it wasn't for the little interludes of bright lights and familiar faces and the promise of something else that would be coming in 7 days' time, I may even have nodded off watching this. It was the only thing. I did watch it all in one sitting, but those little sort of bits and pieces there, which we'll talk about in a moment, if it hadn't been for those, I don't think this would have remotely held my attention. And where was the energy? I'd say it's clear that Juno Dawson is a big fan of the Eurovision Song Contest, and most of the people who work on the show probably are, because they are quite hive-minded, all very politically aligned, and all that kind of thing. But the passion for the Eurovision Song Contest, I didn't really feel that so much either. Apart from the kind of childlike glee of Radha Setu as Belinda again, who I thought she was terrific again. But other than that, I mean, the two guys who are meant to be the big fans, they didn't seem that phased whether they were there or not. They didn't seem that bothered whether they were going to live or die in them.
The problem was, it's sort of like I said, it started off with all the Ryland stuff and like the glitz and glamour and like, this is your vision, let's get excited. And then you're right, it very quickly left that stuff to try and set up the terrorist guy and to try and set up sort of the Doctor conflict. I'm saying that very roughly here with his character, or try and set up the stuff with Mrs. Flood. Like it had so many hats this episode. I feel like it was trying to wear at the same time.
And I don't know if you realise, but this the lady that you've got on screen here now, Dan, the MacGuffin, as
she called
I
Cora.
think she really could be. I could see that a mile off.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you could.
Yeah.
But like I was like, well, she's either hiding the horns in her hair or she's cut them off. And like I was thinking, so is that some sort of allegory for cutting your breasts off or something like that because of the person who is writing this and is an activist? It didn't make any sense to me why she would do that.
It was meant to maybe relate in some way to an issue like transgenderism.
Yeah.
Or that. Yeah. I see what you mean. As it turns out, I don't think it was even that interesting. I mean, I don't know if that woman
it wasn't
who played
interesting
Cora,
at all.
Cora was played by Miriam T. Lee. I'm not sure. I've never seen that actress before. I was wondering, is she a singer who they've got to act, or an actor who they made sing? Because again, she didn't seem to believe the things that she was saying. The only person who did for a single minute seemed to me to be, as I say, the controller, the person of restricted growth, who was the controller there in the studio, and Freddie Fox as Kid. But as I say, because he was barely there, I lost interest in him as well.
He was letting his mullet do the acting.
But it certainly wasn't.
Gary.
It certainly wasn't his accents. I counted about 4 different cod accents when he was speaking.
I mean,
I actually had trouble. The thing when I was watching this didn't have subtitles, so I found it really difficult to understand a lot of this.
Well, some of the we talk about like the dialogue as Charlotte was saying, and I think the dialogue wasn't just like ill thought out. It actually was damaging the characters. I mean, Belinda, who to me week by week is becoming just to me the most obnoxious companion ever. It took all of 5 minutes to make it all about her. How will I get home now? I'm stuck here. And I thought, well, that took actually a few minutes longer for her to make it all about her than I thought. Russell, I thought at one point, has Russell watched any of the shows since after 2010? Because the Doctor is still calling himself Last of the Time Lords. He's still triggered by the time where they all died in a single second. I'm going, hey, Russell, go watch Day of the Doctor. Maybe you haven't seen it yet, but the Time Lords came back. But
is he supposed to be? Is he alluding to when the Master wiped them out that time?
Oh, I thought he was alluding to the day at where they all died. I mean, you may be right. I just thought that didn't make sense.
But you're right.
To echo what David said before, I was so offended by it that I wrote it down. I will cast your body out into the void, and I will stand and watch you freeze to death. If there is anybody out there that thinks that that is anything that the Doctor, who I don't think this is, would ever say in any circumstances, you are delusional. That alone I would really like to ask Stephen Moffat, hey, Stephen, what do you think about the Doctor saying this in the new episode? And get his honest opinion. I don't know if he'd give it, but anybody who thinks, who can still fit a line like that and say that that character is actually the Doctor, no.
It's poor characterization.
Yeah, and you've got that, and he tortures him. I'm sorry, that's what I watched on screen. That the Doctor fully knew that when the glove touched him, it gave the shock, and you could clearly see the guy was withering on the floor in pain, and he did it repeatedly again and again and again and again.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to stop. It was only because other people came in that room. And then afterwards, they tried to justify it by, like you said, wheeling out the whole, it made me think back to when I lost my people. So all the other Doctors before Ncuti have also had that pain. They've had the Time War. They've had to suffer. They've had to have that as this sort of part of their character. Mm-hmm. But do you know what all the other Doctors did? They forgave. They showed kindness. And it made me think of a Capaldi speech, because this absolutely disgusted me. This was the bit of the episode that I was like, this show does not have a clue who the main character is anymore. Yep. If you're having him do this. This is what Capaldi once said in the Zygon inversion two-parter. And he looked at Bonnie, which was the Zygon, who was also, you could argue, had a terrorist character who was leading a group who was willing to wipe out quite a lot of lives. Mm. What did he say to her? He turned around and said, "You're all the same, you screaming kids. Look at you, I'm unforgivable. I forgive you for all you've done. Yeah. I forgive you." And then later on, when he talks about the Time War, and that's why also I thought of this speech, because he talks about the pain. He talks about how it affected him. And he says, "You know what I do with all that pain? You hold it tight till it burns your hand, and you say, no one will ever have to live like this. No one will ever have to feel this pain." So you're telling me the same person that said those lines is willing to, on purpose, use pain to punish someone, because that's what that was. That's not the Doctor.
Well said. Bravo.
It was absolute torture, and I've noticed somebody in the comments has said, "Oh, it wasn't torture."
Under
international law,
baloney.
Causing someone deliberate pain in that sort of situation is described as torture. It is torture, and whoever said it's not torture is talking absolute nonsense. Charlotte is absolutely right with what she said.
You know what you know what the staging of this scene reminded me of? At the end of Return of the Jedi, where Emperor Palpatine is there shooting the lightning into Luke. Yeah. Only now, Ncuti is the Emperor Palpatine, who's like shooting the thing into Luke. It's like that's what we've become now.
Well, the sad part
also added to this, Belinda, when she was obviously they had to solve the situation, and when they were by themselves, the two of them, she calls him wonderful.
Oh,
yeah. She goes, "You're wonderful. You've just seen him torture someone.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Garbage.
When before you'd even had a freak out that you didn't even know this guy that well.
even if we can accept, Charlotte, that she's pleased to see him because she thought he was dead and she thought she was stranded, and she's quite again, I think she's a contradiction in terms of this character. This is why I like her. She feels really real. She's very maternal and very caring, but she's a little self-centered as well. And I like characters to have their flaws too. But even if we accept that she was pleased to see him, it still doesn't quite work because it was so harsh. I mean, ironically, in those scenes, I mean, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I said how great Ncuti was in The Well because he'd brought his performance down so small at some points. And the quieter he got, the more convincing he was. He was great in The Well. I felt he was even. The sad part about it all is that I thought Ncuti Gatwa himself was actually even better in this. He was bringing it right the way down and really feasting on those moments. I got the impression the actor had actually been hungry for something like that to get his teeth into for quite a long time, to reach some sort of depths. Well, hang on, to reach to some sort of further depths within the character. But unfortunately, it still doesn't work because you're quite right. The whole time you're seeing it happen, you think, oh, I didn't think this actor had this in him. But you think, well, again, I don't know who he's playing though, because this isn't the Doctor either. This still doesn't quite gel. Well, and again, I thought that Ncuti managed to, his greater excesses were also managed quite well in this. Whether he cared more about the material or not, maybe, or whether it's the extended period working opposite Verada, who I believe is bringing out the best in him, I couldn't possibly say. But it doesn't work as well here as it did in The World because the material is just nowhere near as strong.
Well, and here's the other aspect why it made me think of Dalek. You've got that scene where, Eccleston tortures that Dalek. And here's my problem with it. The thing is with Dalek, it's a lead up. It makes sense in the context of this is a Doctor that's pretty much just come out of the Time War. It's incredibly fresh, incredibly scarred still. And when he first sees the Dalek, he doesn't do it straight away. He's scared. He wants to get out that room. He's begging to get let out. And then once he realises it's vulnerable, then the animal comes out. But even then, I feel like that the Dalek scene was shorter for actually what he did than what Ncuti did. And the other reason why it worked in Dalek is Rose called him out. Rose, in that ending, when she's got the Dalek next to her and he's holding the gun, and she says, and he sort of says, oh, it's evil. I can't remember the exact line Eccleston gives. And she goes, yeah, but what the hell are you turning into? That's what Belinda needed to do. She needed to be that voice to say, I understand to some extent why you did it, but that is not okay. You should never be willing.
Do you think she should have maybe ran over to the Doctor and took that glove off his hand?
Yeah.
Just something to have a sense of calling this out. That's what also my issue with this. It was sort of very without any sort of fire, sort of told off. He was, you scared me. But then she's very happy to go running back in the TARDIS with him. She doesn't, like I said, proper tell him off. And for me, if you're going to have your Doctor go that dark, A, it needs to make sense. B, it can't be cruel, and that's what that was. And you have to have other characters react with the way they should, which is, like I said, Belinda should have called him out.
We've been joined by a lot of people here, Charlotte, commenting along with the various points that you in particular have raised. Pluto says it was nothing like the Doctor. Pluto's watching on YouTube. And Julianne Goodwin says the torture scene is what I would expect coming from the vindictive, bitter, hateful mind of this writer, Juno Dawson, who always talks about demanding love and acceptance, but behaves and speaks the complete opposite.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The Doctor can get angry. The Doctor can do things when he's pushed. I fully accept that. But the Doctor would never... But the Doctor I know, or the character that I've been watching, like David said, would never, on purpose, inflict pain and suffering like that. Especially when in the past he is forgiven, he has tried to see the good in the likes of Davros, in the Master, in Missy. he's managed. He rises above it. That's
It's
usually
funny,
how
is it?
the Doctor
Sometimes,
acts.
Charlotte, we find that side of the character frustrating, but we accept that's part of him because we do love the Doctor, and we love him because of the ways in which the character is better than we are, as we aspire to have his sort of values, the earlier incarnations, 1 to 12, shall we say. Stop doing bad, harmful things, suggests Eastlyn Burkholder. And Frazzled Fraser in the live chat says, my wife's boyfriend said this is not the Doctor he grew up with. Thank you, Fraser.
Best friend, I think that is, not boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh, best friend.
Yeah.
No, I'd say he's probably right the first time, Fraser, wouldn't you?
Whatever happened to never be cruel or cowardly?
Yes.
You know, always try to be nice. If you can't be nice, never fail to be kind.
It's a joke, Joyce. Thank you for the comment.
And you can't even really put on the thing, well, Juno Dawson doesn't understand the character, because clearly Russell allowed this. So to me, you can lay this as much as at Russell's door as you can with Juno Dawson.
Via the Void said Shooty was terrific as the Doctor in this episode, and the Reverend Steve Amore says a good director tells the actor that turning an act down can get better results. And I believe the direction of this was really imaginative in places. Not enough to make it quite connect, not enough to bring all of those characters to life, but some of them it almost worked with, despite the material. And Melon Rattler is in the live chat and says Shooty has zero depths in his performance. I, generally speaking, how many episodes are we in now, Matt? 14, something like that. Generally speaking, I would agree with Melon. But we have seen flashes of it more so in this season.
As I was going to say, I think Shooty felt at home in this episode because of the way he acts, and it seems very one-dimensional acting, like one trick pony, okay?
Yeah.
He felt this was the sort of episode that he really fitted into, and I'll give him that. But the thing is, this is not Doctor Who, and he doesn't act anything like the Doctor.
Amen.
And it just seemed like this was written. You could see at this point. I mean, I've been out of it, as you know. Like I took a dip out because it was just the same old. But now coming up towards the end, I'm probably more open to watching it because there's less to watch. But it's just that the fact that they're at the point now where they've started realizing what his Doctor is, and rather than putting him in a serious sort of story, because this is more up his alley, so to speak. He fitted in. I can give him that, but this is not Doctor Who. It doesn't even reflect anything that has been ever Doctor Who before in the last, odd few years. But this seemed to be, for him, he seemed to be at home in this sort of
No, I agree.
thing.
That's an interesting point. For all that I think about that this episode didn't work, in all fairness, I can't imagine it working as well, or it working. I can't imagine it convincing in the ways that it did manage to convince with another actor in the lead role. It did feel very tailored to Shooty's Doctor, finally. But again, it's far too little too late. And maybe if they'd have had more idea.
But I wouldn't have been able to watch those too many times, Dan.
No.
That's the thing. Those, I mean, geez. I mean, the fact of the matter is we've had like you said, 14 episodes so far of his Doctor.
It's more than enough, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and it's just the fact, okay, you've finally found his footing for him, but you haven't found the footing for the audience, But
wait a minute. I thought in Shooty's first episode, they made a big deal about how he'd resolved all of his issues.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he said he told David Tennant, go out and get therapy because I'm the result of you getting yourself right. I'm all good. I'm just going to. Then what was all this?
Yeah. They're out of ideas, Gary. Gary, it's just like you said, out of ideas, reverting to kind of factory settings. Russell T Davies needs to move on from this character. I'm sad to say, as a fan of Russell's, he really does. But Philip Roy draws an interesting parallel here. Reminds us that a couple of weeks ago there was a similar kind of element of cruelty to how the Doctor dealt with Conrad in Lucky Day. And David, you said that last week when we looked at the Barber episode, the story in the engine. There was a disparity between how he dealt with one antagonist and the other, and here we are. So it's all over the place. So we are seeing elements of this, but it's isolated and it doesn't line up.
And it's not just that. He also dealt with his supposed best friend Omo in a disgusting way, because Omo wanted him to come to rescue him, to rescue them. And he was that the Doctor always comes when I need him the most to rescue me. He comes and he slates Omo and gives him a piece of his mind. So, but even further back before that, we get him laughing at the waste of a life with embryonic Alan. Okay, so it's Alan, it's the Barber, it's Conrad, it's the Torture.
When you line it up, it paints quite an ugly picture. I dismissed the Alan stuff at the time as just being in poor taste, that it was meant to be something, because Russell has that cartoonist kind of sensibility where he has an interesting visual idea and thinks, wouldn't that be amusing for a few seconds? So I thought it was a little distasteful, but I thought it was I thought the intention had been zaniness. But when you line it all up with this stuff, it does form a pattern of behaviour.
And
when you look at it with, sorry, Charlotte, when you look at it with the antecedents that we've just mentioned, it is like somebody's, previous convictions. It's building a pattern, and we've seen it 4 times in 6 episodes now. That this character is behaving in the most fucking bastard type way. And sorry to use that language.
And here's another one, because I've seen that. Sometimes the Doctor does sort of kill things and it can go too far, but here's what's chilling about this. He got up close and touched him. He was in his face. For me, that's the qualities of a villain, not a hero, because
the Doctor's not even an anti-hero, he's an out-and-out hero, isn't he?
Because sometimes the Doctor can get I think somebody brought up like the spider in the Runaway Bride, and yes, that was dark, but he didn't individually kill every child of the spider. He didn't go up to the spider and kill her. Whereas here he went up to the kid and could hear his screams and kept doing it. So,
and then to make things worse, Charlotte, as he's hopping around, behind him, torturing the guy, and coming up behind him, as he's doing all that, we get all these scenes of grandfather, and I'm sitting there going, "Get out of here!" If you're going to try to think that, to make us think that there's any connection between Susan's grandfather and whoever this guy is.
Yeah, I'd like to say, let's stay with the plot for a little bit longer, but there's nothing there. there's no real jewels to mine for with it. Perhaps some people were able to invest in it and did feel pulled along by it in some way. I don't know, but I'm not one of them. It's the earliest of early days, isn't it? I suppose we'll find out as the comments continue and as we interact with more people and bring on more panelists. But earlier on, I said how I would have tuned out entirely were it not for the things that were going on in the margins that were just sort of hanging in the air. And the most obvious of them was that unexpected appearance by a Doctor Who legend, an icon, the icon we've all been waiting for now probably for, I'd say, 20 years. Surprise, she's back at long last, it seems. How long she's going to be there for, I don't know, but we did get a sight of the Doctor's original companion just here and there. I wish I could get excited in the way that I would have done a couple of years ago to see Carol Ann Ford. She was glowing and she looked ethereal, again, as Susan Foreman. But I was kind of, what? What? It feels. I won't say this is a member berries scenario, but it just makes me very, very worried.
Yeah.
This actually upset me.
Yep.
I've got to admit, when I saw her come up on screen, I was like, "Oh no, here we
She
go,
looks
more
great.
trying to legitimize."
Oh, yeah.
Asian. No, look, I don't blame her for being back in this whatsoever. She took the money and run, and I don't blame her. But
She loves the show as well, Matt, and loves the
Yeah, I was
fans.
going to say she's wanted to be back in the show for years. She's made that very clear.
Oh no, well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But she would have come in anything. She would have come in Jodie's era if they'd asked her. So there's no. It's just the fact that I just felt like it was not needed. Like she didn't need to be in there.
Yeah.
If in the following 2 episodes, which I may or may not watch, I don't know, and I don't care at this point, but if they follow up on what has occurred in this episode, then this, maybe it will pay off. But I think also the fact that I watched the entire season last year for this, and it never occurred, did it?
Yep.
And
Well,
now
kept
it's
teasing
occurred. It's like, it's come a bit too late in more ways than one.
Remember all those rumors that Susan Twist was going to be Susan? Remember all that?
Matt, everybody, I think all of us at some point have said this over the last 6 or 7 weeks, however long we've been talking about it, since before the episode screened. Too little, too late. I can't ever describe Caroline Ford herself as too little. It's fabulous to see her back on screen.
Yeah, I love her. I absolutely love her.
I'm just very, very, very worried now about where it's going to go. I'm also a little bit worried about where it's going to go here on the panel as well, because we have been joined by another panelist who's about to materialize, whether he's in his TARDIS or in a pod. I don't know whether he's been sobered by his experience watching Doctor Who today, or whether he's sort of a gibbering wreck. I don't know. We're going to find out when I bring in the one, the only rabbi from another planet, Svila Bekin, back on site.
Hello, everybody. Yes, well, that was
that
was perfect, Doctor Who. Oh, they finally got it right. That was really painful. The more they have to have classic iconography in them, the less it's Doctor Who. Like Matt Smith, whenever you had winks to the classic era, it was delightful and fun, but totally unnecessary, right? Because he was the Doctor. Judy Gatwa is not the Doctor. I'm sorry, that is just not the Doctor, especially not this cruel, cowardly, torturing Doctor. Oh, he's gonna have a bit of cry again. Oh, that means he must be emotional. Oh God, he's just awful, right? This story was awful. It was paper thin, and the elephant in the room is this. You cannot have a queer family show. They are completely incompatible because the queer world is very openly degenerate, right? I was showing clips of pride parades, right? Pride parades often have public nudity, sexual...
they do now, don't they? Yeah, I've heard. Never used to.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've no problem with having pride, but what
people bring kids along
is now
I've been to it.
It's not what it was 5 years ago, right? And now it's public degeneracy. So I'm sorry. In the most broadest term, it's adult sexuality, deeply adult sexuality, and they made that part of the queer world. What do you want me to do? I didn't do it. You all said this is a bad idea. Maybe you shouldn't. No, that's part of the queer world. So then you have this episode of Doctor Who, which is wall-to-wall queer. There is nothing in here that's vaguely straight. Well, there's no straight male over the age of 35 who wants to watch Euro. None. Ever. It doesn't. And if he does, that means you're probably gay.
I'm obviously probably gay, but you know.
Give it right. Listen,
I'll bring my wife and tell her I'm coming out. Okay.
Listen, I don't know what to take as advice for your bedroom. But I don't know. I just can't imagine. Like Euro is something that people that everybody loves it. Like on the teaser, right? Belinda steps out the door and says, "Oh yes, we're so stay." I'm like, get out of here. Also, by the way, when the dome was obviously going to blow up, right,
Yep.
and it was going to be sucked out into space. Not the first time she's been sucked out, I'm sure. Why didn't shoot his head? Belinda, get the TARDIS, darling. Get the TARDIS. It's about to blow. Get the. I was saying that, right?
Yep.
Right.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not Doctor Who.
He could see that coming. He was tinkering with the settings and things like that on the
Right,
pod,
right.
rather than thinking, let's have it away and let's.
But Rabbi, it's fine. He had a confetti cannon. That's all he needed.
Oh,
Oh, please.
Yes, and a cricket ball.
Okay, I was trying to decide what's worse. This episode of Orphan 55, I came up with Orphan 55. That just generally was boring. However, the confetti cannon scene was as bad or worse than the Binny scene. Binny! Right, was almost as bad as that.
Even 5-year-olds know that you can't swim in space like Shooty was doing.
How's he survive? How long was he out there for? Half an hour? 45
Yeah.
minutes? Oh, we're all fine, baby. It's okay. The Mavit is working. Russell, God's sake, get it through your head. It was a bad idea when you first had it. We've all told you it's a bad idea for the last
If
2 years.
the Mavity shield was on, they wouldn't have started freezing. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
It's
And-
just
and-
dumb after dumb
Can I-
after dumb.
Can I just
after queer
can I
after
just
queer
also
after
mention
queer.
something that I think we've forgotten as well, and it's important that we don't gloss over. They destroyed Helios apparently and ravaged them because they wanted to harvest poppies for honey.
Right.
We all know why people harvest poppies to get opiates from them. So are we now calling opium honey?
Maybe, well, I also
That's
tied
part of the
into Captain
message.
Poppy, right? I thought it's going to be something to do with Captain Poppy because that's
Dr. Poppy, yeah.
that's kind of the level of intellectual stimulation the series Doctor Who's giving us.
So this was so underwritten. I did get the feeling somehow that I was being politicized and being targeted with some message or another.
I
because
because
it was so badly written, I couldn't really. I suppose you could say this is a good thing. I couldn't really figure out what Dawson was actually trying to say because it didn't really. The script really didn't stay in one place for long enough, or with one character for long enough for anything to be really fleshed out.
I wrote down, I'm just going to say, I went to a transcript because I thought I want to get this exactly right. And whether you think that this is relating to anything, I'm not going to be the one to say, but here's the dialogue. They say they practice cannibalism and witchcraft. People say that a lot about species they don't understand. We're not allowed to sing. We're treated like scum right across the galaxy. Now, if you choose to think that's an allegory for something, I'm not going to stop you, but that's the dialogue from the episode.
The problem was that for Kid, whatever he's called, Freddie's character to work,
Kid.
you needed to have more time to sort of understand
Yeah, I have
his
no clue what the
motivations.
backstory is.
Any
I know-
motivations whatsoever?
Because it's not like he just wanted to kill a few people. No, he wanted to kill 3 billion, was it, or whatever that number
Yep.
was?
3
they said?
trillion.
So he wanted to have a pretty high count. So
For a moment, Charlotte, I wondered if he was simply just trying to impress the pretty girl. Whether it was his own ego. You know, if it was just that simple. But I don't think it was that. I think that Dawson was trying to point towards bigger motives and some sort of depth. But again, it was also
what you're talking about,
undernourished.
Islamophobia, or what you're talking about,
Don't know.
Palestinians. I don't know.
Don't care.
Yeah, this is dry.
I think it's open to interpretation, that's for sure.
yeah, I think
But
that's
this
the
entire
purpose.
episode.
bad writer.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about
I don't want to
Graham Norton.
get into its mind.
We haven't even talked about Graham Norton yet.
You know
He
what?
wasn't bad now. There should have been more celebrity cameos. Why weren't all the singers like famous singers? Like I don't get not Taylor
I was
Swift.
expecting some ABBA costumes at least.
What was that?
Or a Bucks Fizz.
I was expecting some ABBA costumes or,
We got.
Oh, we had a
Bucks-
bit of
They were here. There
There
were
was
here and
Bucks
there.
Fizz
There were there were lines of dialogue. There were little costumes. If you look around the crowd, different people dressed in different sort of eras of the contest. As you say, Rabbi, they did feature "Making Your Mind Up" by Bucks Fizz. Again, Eurovision peaked in 81. They should have stopped it the year after, as far as I'm concerned. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Graham Norton, who usually makes me sort of want to pull my own teeth out, so I've got something to throw at the screen. I don't think he was that bad in this at all. In fact, I thought that the recording of him towards the recording of him towards the end of the episode was almost haunting, as he explained what happened to the Earth. Almost. I'd forgotten that he used to be an actor.
It makes it make less sense. So you're saying in the next week, Ryland Clark gets frozen in cryogenic storage.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't work out.
Yeah. And Eurovision gets like carried on somehow, somewhere. I like. Again, the world's ending this week. How is all this happening?
No, Rabbi, you're exactly right. I was thinking when I wrote down right after that scene, I had to pause it. I asked myself, okay, Earth was destroyed in May 2025. How did they get a hologram of Graham Norton recounting the history of the planet being destroyed?
Oh yeah,
could be.
Oh,
AI.
they did say that they used remnants of certain parts of Earth to recreate him, but the Ryland guy, it didn't make any sense because he'd been cryogenic, and it's like, well, then he would have had to have been cryogenic before, like, by 24th of May.
Yeah, so it's got a week to get cryogenically.
Is he going to be on Radio 2 next Saturday? Because if he is, we all know we're fucked. So,
the
BBC
BBC should put out a press
during,
release. The BBC should put out a press release this week saying that he's going into cryogenic freeze this week. That would actually
that would make
There's a school of thought.
I thought he would.
There's a school of thought that believes that with shows like Doctor Who, with any kind of escapism, that you shouldn't think about it too much. But if you think about this for longer than
some bit,
dumb.
like okay, you had the bubble blow up, they got sucked into space, and they all live. Like that makes no sense.
Yeah, because he created bubbles for each one.
Okay,
also,
but like.
Okay.
That's what he was doing. That's what Shruti was doing, as far as I understood it.
No, he increased the gravity called mavity for some stupid reason, for fourfold, so they don't get sucked out too far. And the cold will freeze them. That way they can suck them back with a holographic tractor beam, one by one. 100,000 of them, right? I did the math. How many? If they take 10 minutes each to revive, I did the math. It's going to take 694 days. That last montage is literally 2 years long, right?
And you know when the cat lady had that bandage over her eye, did I miss something? Did she get hit by something before she got flown out?
You didn't see it, but he refers to it. He goes, "Oh, you're right."
Yeah, but also the amount of plot contrivance. So of all the people that the Doctor happened to nick their VIP pod, it was those two, that couple, that one of them just happened to work on the space station, just happened to know how to do holograms, just happened to know how to use all the technology that the Doctor needed later on in the plot. And then also his other half just happened to be a doctor or a medical person, so when Shooty came in, they could revive him.
Not only did he work on the station, but he designed the damn triangulation that Shooty so badly needed. What luck!
It's like the red wolf with the luck virus. Actually, no, this is a Chinese form of writing. It's called clap, right?
Most people, your first job's in Greg's or something like that. You don't go straight to working on these sort of one dream project to another. It is a bit strange.
Can we please have the final scene of this season be Capaldi stepping out of the shower and everything from the last 5 years is a dream?
If it's this season,
Gary, you can't.
Shower, oil his body, and have sex with another man.
I'm hoping Kerr Raven shows up and shoots bloody Shooty in the chest.
Oh,
you're watching Type 40 Live's instant reactions to the Interstellar Song Contest, the sixth. Is it the sixth or the seventh? The sixth episode of the second season of All New Doctor Who that's just screened a couple of hours ago on BBC One. It's been on the iPlayer and Disney Plus all day. We're sharing our thoughts, comparing our takes, and bringing in as many comments as we can and as many extra voices too. And I'm happy to say He's made it through as well. We usually know how we usually have some sort of gauge about how well this gentleman's Saturday has gone by how croaky his voice is after he's recorded his own review for his own channel, of course, the mighty, the seminal YouTube channel, Bolstrek. And our mate Chris is here to bring us, well, we'll find out, won't we? Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hello, mate.
How's everybody doing today?
How was your Saturday?
Oh, just wonderful. I really like the scene where Dr. Nutty starts torturing the dude with electricity and then continues torturing the dude with electricity.
Yeah.
And then a minute later, people are cheering. Yeah.
So wonderful.
Yeah, I tell you, we haven't had stuff like that in Doctor Who for a while, or ever.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
You sound somewhat worn down after 6 weeks of subjecting yourself to this show, Chris. I mean, I was expecting this to be an absolute nightmare, and it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but it wasn't anywhere near up to scratch. What's your summary of it, do you think?
Dr. Nutty goes to a song contest with a bunch of furries. Then the box comes in, and the box is going to play Death Sound. Then he gets mad because the dude wanted to Death Sound everybody. So then he tortured the dude. Oh, and they all fly up into a bubble, and that was fun. And then the Ronnie regenerates into a drag queen. I thought it was just awesome. I can't wait. Two more weeks of this. As y'all know, I took last week off. I let a talking goat that sounds like a squirrel take over my channel, but the goat said he was not going to do this week's episode because he's offended by the furries because he thinks they're making fun of him.
I mean, Charlotte feels, didn't you, Charlotte, that stuff again just happens because the script needs it to, and that's something I think we've had a couple of times in this season. I mean, again, Chris, I feel that we bemoan the fact that the show doesn't bring through enough new writers, and then when it does, it's people who clearly aren't up to the task.
Well, when you hire a dude who's known for writing children's books that partially tells them about poop eating, what do you expect?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so top marks for this week's trip into degeneracy. And
are you a Eurovision fan, Chris? I know you like your music. You're somewhat of a musician as well. As the charms of the Eurovision, have they escaped you over the years, or is this a guilty pleasure of yours, the actual Eurovision Song Contest?
I don't think anybody over here even knows what it is.
I love how they keep plugging it and saying
sounds like
this huge thing that the whole world loves and adores. No, this is just in your bonkers little queer mind. Right, in the queer world, I get it. You think, oh, everybody likes Europe. No, you're a minority.
It's only a small percentage here that like it, and yet all of a sudden we're contestants, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Can I, Chris? Can I just ask Dan? Can I just ask Chris a question? Chris, it's a pleasure to be able to converse with you tonight because, like Dan, I'm David, by the way. Hello.
Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Haven't we streamed before, or have I just?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Okay.
I did make a comment on your Twitter the other day about my first car being like a crap orange Skoda, and you told me yours was a Ford Taurus.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Your voice was the second voice I ever heard on YouTube. The first being the obviously wonderful Richie Bano, the Australian cricket commentator. So he was the first voice I ever heard on YouTube, and he was magnificent, and you were too. But what I wanted to know is this series bad enough to be considered for Canadian public information films, or is it is it even worse than that?
Well, the thing with the Canadian PSAs is we can at least glean some entertainment out of them because they're so dark.
Yes.
The only entertainment I can glean from this is the fact that they ever thought this was going to fly. I do get entertainment when the ratings come out every week. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah,
Speaking of flying, we've got to have a look at some more comments here. We've got this user says, "Oh, come on, guys. It wasn't that bad. Remember the scene where he breathes in space and travels using a glitter cannon?"
Oh yeah, that was great.
And he looks into camera and goes, "Camp." I really.
Did anybody
And
notice
let's
that
not forget when he has a vision, and just having the vision all of a sudden makes him unfreeze. That was a great one.
Yeah.
Anybody notice that he blasted the glitter gun from his crotch?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
I did.
As you would.
I wondered if it was not meant to be a homage to Fort of Doomsday, but I think they could be giving them too much credit.
Big go Doctor Strangelove, I was expecting, you know.
Port of Doomsday, he had 4 minutes, as I believe. He could be in space for like 4 minutes, was it? And he was wearing a breather helmet.
Yeah.
Melon suggests that Susan should have been given her own show years ago. Now her return is wasted to be jammed into the worst era in the show's history. Yeah, I'm certain that her presence will lift things. Carol Ann Ford is a magical figure. Susan is a irreplaceable character in Doctor Who lore. I'm sure she'll be great, and we'll probably hang on every word that she says. But yeah, I can't help but worry. Obviously, I'm more confident in how Russell could handle her than I would some no mark like Juno friggin' Dawson. But even so, Russell is not. He's not writing at his best. And these finales do tend to be a bit of a dog's dinner, Charlotte. But usually the first half's fantastic. The second half, it's like, what the fuck?
Well, the problem is, recently he's not had a good track record of classic characters. No. And we'll probably get to this soon. The whole reveal with Mrs. Flood. I'm sorry, that came out of nowhere.
Yep.
That was not hinted at. I had a feeling it was going to happen because basically the internet had already predicted it, purely because of how the name and Russell sort of is nowadays. You can sort of guess what he's going to do. But actually in the series itself, there was nothing set up for it. So you're telling me that the character of the Rani was quite happy to spend years, by the looks of it, of her life, because the way the companions have spoken to her, how Millie spoke, like she was her neighbour, she'd known her for a long time.
All her life.
The Rani is happy to spend her life basically every Tuesday taking out the bins and feeding a dog, and now and again having little adventures because we see her in back in space, and so but she has to pretend to be normal for years and years and years. And anytime, Lord, that would be torture. That would be the idea of living a normal life in that sort of linear fashion. But I can't help but think, surely the Rani of all the characters, that would be especially a bad existence.
Well, the Rani is a character that I've always adored. Obviously, first appeared 40 years ago this year, a big favourite of mine. And when I was thinking about this, because I knew about this a little while ago. When I was thinking about this, I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. Then I thought, well, actually, the Rani was a mistress of disguise, if you remember. All of them look like Kate O'Mara, of course.
But the master in that story spent a week dressed up as a scarecrow, standing in a field,
giggling.
Giggling
to himself, yeah. Wait a minute. Do we now have multiple Kate O'Mara? Because they all bi-generate, don't they?
Whatever the dumbest explanation is going to be your explanation.
Yeah. From what I've been told, that the previous ones now are copies. Yeah, so the real one is this woman, and so therefore she can treat the other one like shit. For some reason.
I thought she was good casting. I thought this was
superb casting. Archie
I was trying to find some things nice there, but this she really nailed it. She was on screen for 10 seconds. Really nailed the character much more than Anita Dobson ever did. Anita Dobson just was. She was more like Iris Wildtheme than the Rani. She was
it's because Charlotte's right. It's because Charlotte's right though, Rabbi, Anita Dobson was never playing the Rani.
No, she
I
wasn't.
don't think
Right.
Anita Dobson. I think Anita Dobson took the part thinking she was playing a slightly eccentric, busybody neighbour, and just carried on. They kept sending her scripts, and she kept turning up. People are always
There's
pleased
no
to see
idea
it, 'cause
what's going on and not caring.
No
Yeah, she's
idea.
got that
No
Meryl
idea.
Reed thing going on, hasn't she?
Yeah, people are always pleased to see her because she's Anita Dobson. Who wouldn't be pleased to see Anita Dobson? She's a national treasure. And
Right.
so she's happy to take the money. Everybody's pleased to see her. Everyone's happy. But the problem is when you look back across it, you realise, no, of course the character doesn't really make any sense whatsoever.
the
This
only
has
time-
obviously been written. I believe that it was always probably intended that the Rani be the big bad of this of this balance to that initial order of 2 seasons. That was probably always the case. But I reckon that these 2 characters were aligned because obviously Anita was just contracted for that one initially. I think that this has been sort of kit bashed into place to keep Anita on the cast and to add a sense of some thread of continuity. And it's lovely to have Anita part of it, but it doesn't work, Charlotte.
The only time that sorry, you go, Charlotte.
I was like, it feels like they got, like I said, they got Anita on because probably Russell's a fan of her, and she's a very well-known actress in the UK, and she's usually very good at what she does. And it feels like just they didn't have an overall plan for this character of Mrs. Flood. They just had a couple of bits, like you said, oh, she's a neighbour, she's a bit of a busybody, and they just kept bringing her back with no real sort of forward plan for her. And then it feels like in the 11th hour, suddenly they were like, oh, she's the Rani. And then we got this scene. But I do agree with you, the actress I haven't seen this actress in anything before, but yeah, she had presence. She had this sort of nobody messes
Swagger,
with me.
right? She had that arrogant swagger that you expect on the Rani.
And I'm going to be honest, I am very much looking forward to what she's going to do in the finale.
Yeah,
that is the
I
main
agree.
thing,
I agree.
because I think she's going to bring a lot of class. She's going to bring a real sort of.
Well, have you seen the images they posted on social media from next week where they got her, Anita Dobson, and what's his name in
Conrad.
They must have published those when we come live. Archie Panjab has been a British character, a British Indian character actress now for around 20 years or so. People have seen her in a multitude of mostly dramas. I think when she was in her early 20s, come to think of it, she's been in American shows as well, became quite a star there as part of, was it The Good Wife, the drama show? And she used to do the magazine spreads and stuff when she was a little bit younger. She was in FHM magazine and all that sort of stuff. But where I most remember her for was as Sam Tyler's colleague and girlfriend in the original
that
Life
was
on
her?
Mars episodes.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Also, girlfriend. I was thinking you're going to say it's the WPC in it. Here, what's that, Stan? I'll show you the image if you want. 1 second.
No, I don't add images, mate. I've got them all. I've got everything prepared. We've got other shows I can bring those in for.
Okay, no problem.
So to get good actors in good parts from stuff that we liked is never a bad thing. When they've got an international career and a track record, even better. But of course, we don't live in an age anymore, Chris, where all eyes are on this show anymore, where we can say, look, we got Archie Panjab to come in this. We got Chris Noth in this. Because nobody really cares anymore. I think that Archie will be terrific in this. I'm sure she'll give it her all. But when it's nowhere near the show that it was, its quality has gone downhill. There's no real love from the general public. Very little appetite for this brand of Who, even from the fan base. Again, it's too little, too late. They probably should have brought her in as this character and dotted her throughout the series. I don't know.
I
really
nobody
would
over here
like
knows
to
who
see
this
her,
person
in
is.
the TARDIS.
Say what?
So I was thinking Anita Dobson. I would really like to have seen her being batty in a TARDIS. Right, that would have been fun. That would if you're going to be the batty Aunt Rani, then I want to see it rather. But again, I think they probably just thought of it as they went along.
Yeah, it does feel like it's literally been thought up on the Who for all of it.
And also, and a few people said this in the chat, so why is Anita Dobson now acting like some sort of subservient yes miss, no miss.
Yeah,
full
exactly.
miss.
Yeah.
Because
to keep her around again, Charlotte. It's just like you've just said. You've answered your own question earlier on.
but it's like, but once again, Russell, you've done this bi-regeneration thing again, and I think that was just because he could just say basically, look, I've done it again. It's canon, guys. You need to like this idea. But from my understanding of bi-regeneration, you're still the same character. You're different incarnations in the same spot.
Right.
So to suddenly have Anita act completely different.
Because I'm sorry, Charlotte, but I believe that the new one that comes out is actually the dominant of the two, because it was like it happened with Shooty. Yeah, but it happened with Shooty, and look what he did. He told him what to go and do, didn't he? And he went and did it.
Yeah.
David Tennant went down and sat down in the back. So this is how it works now. The new one becomes the dominant out of the two. So, and the other one becomes the copy. So, and it just goes and does what it's been told.
One cannot help but notice the specific demographic representations of the subservient and the dominant.
You're right.
The old white lady has been replaced by her better, younger successor.
I wasn't going to say it, Chris, but yeah.
You're right, Chris.
Rani is an Indian title, isn't it? It means queen in Hindi,
So
I think.
Only right.
Yeah, it means queen.
Yes, I'm all on board for this. I thought the last scene where Mrs. Flood comes out of the sort of deep freeze, whatever you want to call it. It was Anita kind of hammed it up a little bit, but I thought that was fun. And I did get the impression that scene and maybe a few earlier scenes felt like they'd been written by Russell T Davies. The dialogue just felt far, far better. It crackled in the way that his stuff tends to. But again, it's nowhere near enough to a mid-credits scene, which I wish they'd stop doing, is not going to get this episode into my good books anytime soon. As pleased as I am to see the continued involvement of Anita Dobson, and certainly to see Archie Panjab in the show for the next couple of weeks. I knew she was going to be joining it, and I think that we all wondered who she'd be playing. People have been asking for the Rani to come back for a number of years now, or I was never really sure whether there was a genuine kind of a fan base for the character, because whenever I've brought her up, I seem to be the only Rani fan in the room. It had become a kind of standing joke, Gary. You know, maybe it's the Rani. Maybe it has been literally since the Master came back. It's been maybe it should be the Rani next. It should be, and I believe that either Russell or Stephen Moffat used to give interviews saying that's not a character we'd ever bring back because nobody remembers her. But this is where we are now.
Every time there was any actress, female actor, announced for any part whatsoever since 2005, everybody says, "Oh, she's going to be the Rani." Didn't matter what. That's been a litany for 20 years now.
Did anyone else feel that it was a bit of a retread as well of, albeit sort of a slimline version of the changeover between Derek Jacobi and John Sim?
Yeah, but I think it's pretty good. They're both written by Russell T Davies, as you said.
All of this, where on the odd occasion where the series does feel like Doctor Who, it feels too much like Doctor Who we've seen before.
Yeah. And isn't it strange, Dan, though, that for what was supposed to be like a brand new soft reboot to introduce, this show to a whole new generation of people and kids who may not have seen anything of it before, that he keeps defaulting to like the big bads that require knowing the classic series, like Sutek, now the Rani. It's like, I guess it's easier than coming up with something that's actually new that doesn't rely on the crutch of, defaulting back to classic Who.
Yeah, despite the fact that I'm a Rani fan, I think I would have rather them create something something
would have
new
loved
and
Kate
built
Mara
it sort of
to come back.
effectively.
If
I know
they
she
did the
can't,
Rani versus the Doctor, that would have as a season-long arc or 2 season arc. Again, it's a real shame we haven't seen the Rani versus the Doctor. Like, one of the bits I love about the chase is seeing the goofy Dalek time machine and them chasing each other. Right, that's actually kind of fun. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I like that stuff. I like
But
goofy
like,
stuff.
we were robbed all of that with this bizarre choices. I don't know.
How could
And
it
you know what?
possibly
One
top
last thing.
this?
We only got 20 seconds of this new Ronnie. Does anybody think that with this new Ronnie that Shooty stands a chance against her? Because I
No.
don't.
Well, at least she wasn't sitting on top of the
Good
TARDIS.
point. Good point. She felt right away like she's gonna give his she's gonna give him a proper kick in terms of the plot and the action.
In torment, right? I'm going to cause him pain or torment, and I kind of like that right in the line which said, "Yes, I said that." Well, I thought that was a good line. But it also just lurches from like first they murder 100,000 people, then they're all alive, and then they're torturing this guy. It's like it just lurches backwards and forwards. Tonally.
It's like Charlotte says.
The tonal shifts in this. It's like, we're sort of all happy and it's Eurovision and we've got Ryland and like the Doctor's like beside himself with happiness and Belinda when they can meet him. Right. And like you've got all of that, and then like you said, you've got the plot with Freddie Fox's character. You've got a massive canon reveal at the end. You've got a couple which we're meant to believe are arguing, but we get like 2 lines of dialogue to that, and then they're loved up again and everything's fine.
Don't forget the return to Belinda's arc suddenly from nowhere when she suddenly realizes that she's alone on a space station.
Yeah.
That we've not and she's not really spoken about it apart from the odd barking line for the last 5 episodes. It's like trying to change gears on a car when the clutch has gone. All you're hearing is the grinding between different gears. And
I bet Russell wrote that scene as well.
Oh yeah.
We got the red TARDIS as well. Again, the bright red TARDIS with the cluster bell going off. It's all kicking off. The doors come flying off, and there's fire, and there's
May I ask? Apparently, that happened last week as well. So does that? Yeah. Did that have the cloister bell in it, or just the red?
No, last week it didn't. This week it did.
Well, last week it was just the red room of pain, Matt. But
so does that explain last week's then?
No.
I don't remember it happening last week. Oh no, it's in the middle. When did it happen in this one?
Right at the end, Rabbi. Right at the end.
Yeah, whatever. I can't remember. I don't really care.
Went just at the end before the Rani reappeared.
Okay.
Yeah, before the Italian
right at the very end, before the credits, and then the credits run for like 2 seconds.
Sorry,
and then
I'm like, I'll cover it tomorrow, and I'll do a deep dive review tomorrow. And I'll go for.
I was trying to figure out. It was a really weird thing to have the credits, but go for like 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden stop. Were they trying to be a surprise or something?
Yes.
Marvel.
It didn't work.
I need to say here the comparisons in between how this story ended and the bang banger boom that the wonderful Clayton Hickman and the lovely Gareth Roberts
you are right. That's
2002 mirrors exactly that, Matt. It's a complete rip-off because bang banger boom. You think it's all wrapped up, the credits roll, then you hear a record the noise of a stylus being dragged across a record, and Mel just goes, hang on a minute, that's a bit too easy. And so they then do the final scene, which wraps it all up. So it's a complete rip-off, in my opinion.
What this reminds me of is when in Jodie's run in the Spyfall episode when they did the master reveal.
Yeah,
it's just done so you can because to be fair, I've been sort of keeping an eye on like internet talk and like people are talking about the Rani reveal today. It has actually generated some.
That's what it's for.
So they've done it purely
Is it the Rani
for that.
or Susan, Charlotte? Which one has been the dominant out of the two? Is
Rani.
it Susan returning? Oh, okay. Right.
Really?
Thank you
Because
for letting
it's
me know.
and it's just like I said, the actress looks brilliant. I am very much looking forward to what she's going to bring for the next couple of weeks. But the cynical part of me is like, this has been done because you know that nothing else was getting people talking about this show. So you've done a shock reveal to sort of try and get some sort of momentum back.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I had a suspicion that Susan and the Rani were put both into these episodes just to up this episode, because if they hadn't been in this episode would probably be one of the worst episodes
Easily.
of the thing. And I think that this has obviously been decided that it needs to be propped up just to give it that little bit more credibility, because if you remember, Sutek wasn't revealed until the end of the second last episode last year. So they've sort of gone past the anticlimactic thing this time around and revealed it in this episode, so that you can, very much like what you said, Dan, about the whole, what happened with the Master,
Utopia, and then the two actual finale episodes.
And then there was actually the two finale.
No, you're right.
episodes.
And now you mention it, mate, that could be because I felt very much, because I was dreading this episode, and although it isn't as bad as I was expecting, it's not far off. I was dreading this episode, and I felt it would have. This is the kind of story that they usually place much earlier, because of its sort of light and bubbly kind of appeal to those who this kind of stuff would appeal to. Kind of like the end of the world kind of story, the Mos Eisley Cantina kind of aspect to it. But I think you're right. I think that they deliberately shunted this along there, just as you say, to prop it up and to give a platform to showcase this writer in particular, to advance the career of this writer in particular. I wonder why that could be, because the quality of their work has always been awful that I've seen.
It's a mystery. Nobody will ever figure this one out.
Given how just like how openly awful this was in so many ways, I could really believe the most extreme rumors that this show will end with Ncuti Gatwa regenerating into Billy Piper, and there'll be the end of it, just open-ended, and we'll never really see the continuation from that. Right? I could really like it'll fit. I would see that. Why not?
Why not?
The production of this episode, again, they've claimed it's the most expensive episode that they've ever made. I would hope they've held back a few quid. A two-part finale. Otherwise, things could get a bit threadbare. I mean, we've seen some special effects sequences or bits and pieces of them. We've seen lots of shots of Ncuti Gatwa in a bowler hat and a pinstripe suit. So we're clearly going back to Earth. That's a good thing. And I do feel that Ncuti's character has progressed in this episode and in earlier episodes as well, but in fits and starts. I still don't feel that he's a convincing, credible lead for the show. But given the fact that this is absolutely the final end for the 15th Doctor over the next fortnight, I would like to think that the era ends with us, if not thinking, I'm going to miss seeing that character, at least redeemed ever so slightly. That at least this era is in and of itself feels complete in some way, like it's told a full tale. I agree. Right now, where we are right now, that seems unlikely. But obviously, they've got to finish off several plot lines. They've got to get Belinda home. They've got to save the Earth, fend off the Rani and whoever else is going to show up. It's the Rani, the boss, that Beep the Meep talked about all the way back in the Star Beast. David, I don't know. I don't know where any of it's going.
Honestly, I think the chances of being sexually pleasured by a 19-year-old Scarlett Johansson with the Rani. Definitely, what's her name? The classic Rani. What's the name?
Kato Mara.
Kato Mara.
Kato Mara, right? Is more likely than that outcome.
Do you fancy her, Rabbi?
I'm not sure how.
Rabbi?
I'm not,
Rabbi, do you fancy her more dressed as Bonnie
As
Langford or the old
yes,
lady?
yes. I would like
Bonnie.
to have a sexual congress with the Rani impersonating Mel. That would be fascinating.
I'm not sure how I can follow
and
that.
I don't believe I'm the only person who's ever thought of that. Right? Really, when she dressed as Mel, you're like, "Ooh, would you?" I bet I can't be the only person who thought of that.
I'm not quite sure how I can.
I'm not
follow
admitting
that,
it.
Exactly.
but I'm not quite sure how I can follow that. But I'm
Look,
going to
they're
try.
scared thinking about it. Poor little love.
I am going to try.
It's
to
never the
follow
biggest
that, but I
Bonnie
don't
thing.
think- I don't think I'll do a very good a job of following it, but I will try and answer your question, Dan. I do actually think that the boss could be the Rani because she has been referred to as the governor, or she referred to herself as governor. But from the rumors going around, they're saying that sort of like reference and the leaks that there's a transcript of Omega being referred to, and that he's going to appear as some sort of bizarre sort of Inspector Gadget, Dr. Claw.
Right.
So he could well be the boss. And somebody also mentioned,
And he's done all this to the Earth. He's scattered all the icons. What about, you don't think that Susan could be the boss?
No, I don't think she's the boss. I think she's the boss for coming in and taking the money. But I do think somebody in the chat, and forgive me, individual who posted this, they said that an anagram of salt is last, and Omega is the last letter in the alphabet. So, but I think they're also giving Russell a lot of credit to think of that. And I actually think the post.
Like,
yeah,
if I
I know.
start this game and change the spelling and do this, it's Sutek. Really?
Oh, several people going for the Omega thing
I think
here.
it's got to be that, because why not just piss on the whole sort of history of Doctor Who and be done with it?
Ewan Erdley watching on YouTube seems a little sad to see Shooty go. And whereas Melon Rattler asks Jodie or Shooty, which Doctor was the most sociopathic? There's an entire live stream conversation in that, Melon Rattler. Maybe we'll come back to that at some point in the future.
I think this, you know what? I just realized, I think this episode is, because I was just thinking, you know, whatever arc points need to be resolved. For me, there's no, once again, just like in Rogue last season, there's no coming back from what they did to the Doctor in this episode. There's just not. You basically have to just, you know, throw the flag and say, okay, we've damaged this character. This character is doing way too much damage to the legacy of the character of the Doctor. And once again, in the 6th episode, which Rogue was last season, we have something happening in this season's 6th episode, which does fundamental damage to, and is fundamentally incompatible with everything about the Doctor. So I don't think there's coming back from it.
I've got a question though, to do with the fact that we're pretty much Shooty's going at the end of this series, and now they're seeming to try to set up this idea of, now he's gone too far, now he's gone too harsh. That line that he said about, I've now got a shard of ice in my heart and it's not going. So could that possibly...
but all this was shot like before they knew he was going. When they shot this, they thought it was going to be a huge success.
But
this
I'm just
before,
wondering...
you know, anybody saw Church on Ruby Road.
No, but I'm just wondering if maybe in the last minute sort of reshoots we know happened, we know they've had to go back to this material at some point and add things. Could that maybe be stuff they're going to add more to build on that, and that's why Shooty goes?
You know what? I'm rooting for the Ronnie at this point.
Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah, I found it strange that they didn't gender change the Rani. Isn't that strange?
I find it strange that they didn't leave one of them in a big pair of Bridget Jones' Hello Mummy pants like they did with David Tennant.
Well, but Matt, they made her
she was holding up her pants like that. Did you notice that? I was like,
Matt, they made her not white anymore, so that's the important thing, Matt.
Thank you, everybody, for the comments that we've had so far on this one. There's plenty more to pick up on in the future. Obviously, these have been our instant reactions to episode 6 of this season of Doctor Who, the Interstellar Song Contest. It's now streaming, as Russell T Davies was... he took the time to remind us earlier on, didn't he, in that special reel thing, but it's here again in their graphic. It's now streaming on BBC iPlayer and Disney Plus throughout the rest of the world. So get over there. They really want you to go over there. They really, really do. Because at this point, it really is a case that every
pirate
little
it. Oh, give them the view. Just pirate it.
It's all over. The pain will be over in just 2 weeks' time, Rabbi, and whatever we talk about after that. But I suspect there'll be more than enough to chew through over the next 2 Saturdays as well. Let us know what you think as well as you watch the show. Maybe you're going to re-watch it and look for more winners. I don't know. And tell us your views about Doctor Who and the Eurovision Song Contest. Was this always a bloody stupid idea? I think it probably was, wasn't it? I think we've got the answer to that. But we'll be here with more, of course, on each of the remaining Saturdays with even more of this. Where next? Yes, you've heard our thoughts there about this latest episode of All New Doctor Who. We've helped one another through the afterglow of delivery of yet another installment. Just 2 more left, and we've been taking comments too from everybody on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X there with your views as well. Some people have enjoyed this. It's very, very clear. Some people are more whipped up than others. Obviously, the aroma in the air, though, is one of failure.
I was going to say something else, but yeah. You can...
I thought we were going to human excrement with that, but okay, whatever you want to say, Dan.
I mean, they seem happy. They seem happy. They threw themselves into this, both of them, and it's just not enough, is it? And I think that there could have been a lot more mileage in this partnership had they started this a year earlier. We're never going to know. And I think by the time
they fired the companion after the first season for no apparent reason, other than she was popular and white and straight.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have been a good idea.
It picks up next week with Wish World, again by the showrunner Russell T Davies, and we'll be back with our instant reactions to all of that as well. I'm not sure if this is a standard episode or whether it runs a little bit longer. I think it could be an hour or so. I think as I understand it, the final episode is next to feature length as well. They haven't confirmed the runtime of either of these yet. They could be long ones. So stay tuned and make sure you're notified. Hit the cloister bell so you can work out when we're on and when we can reconnect for more. In the meantime, reach out to us through our social medias, Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who, or come and join us in the Type 40 Facebook group where there is a review thread that's very much up and running, and people venting their spleen. Some people liked it a lot. I can't pretend that everybody hates. Some people have really, really enjoyed this, and we'll be hearing from some of them on the early edition of the show on Monday from 8. So don't miss that. So go and check out what people think there in the Facebook group, or leave us a review through SpeakPipe as well, so you can be part of Type 40 all from your own smartphone there, and leave us a review, a prediction for the rest of the season, or any kind of feedback at all through the wonders of SpeakPipe. But this has been Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, as ever, with the regular panel, various panelists from across our various shows, as well as some guests here from podcasting and from YouTube. Earlier editions of the show are available to stream here in the playlists, all the dedicated shows to things like the Blu-ray releases or birthday editions for Doctor Who luminaries off-screen and on-screen, as well as the dedicated news, views, and review shows all here on the playlist. So go and hit them up and see if you like the look of one of them and dive in, as well as the Type 40 podcast, of course, available across all major podcatchers and at our home feed at type40.podbean.com. That should be more than enough to keep you busy until the series resumes for the two-part finale beginning next week. Not too long to wait, Chris, until the pain is over.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for making the time to catch up with us for a little while. But have you dropped your video yet? Is it on the way? When can people hear the official Bowls Trek take on the Interstellar Song Contest?
Well, given the goat's not covering it this week, so I'm back to my usual 12 hours in hell. I have watched this abomination twice. Script is
Oh my
done.
God, twice.
I've recorded the voiceover, so that's good. So it's another 4 to 5 hours of editing tomorrow, including a third go through of the episode, screen caps. I'm in hell. I can't wait for this to be done. 2 weeks. God damn it.
Well,
Yeah.
then we've got 5 weeks of the war between the land and the sea at some point. So you just gird yourself.
That's right.
We got with the what and the what now?
The
spin-off.
spin-off Bowls Trek that we told you
Spin-off, he's
about.
not-
Oh, Jesus Christ. I blocked it out of my head. Okay.
5 eps, my friend. 5 more episodes.
We'll spare you that.
No,
Sean has joined us.
By Pete Matigue and starring Russell Tovey. I'm sure it won't be super gay.
Shah has joined us in the live chat and says, "I'm here. Hello. What did we think?" But you have to scroll us back, Shah. It's good to see you, but yeah, you'll have to take us back. Hit rewind for the last couple of hours, and you can find out our reactions.
I was so happy they put pronouns back into the series.
Yes.
That
Oh,
was
Yeah, we were missing
Just,
that.
just what we needed. I mean, I'm lucky because I get to miss Wish World because I'm watching the England cricket team succumb to the low-lying Zimbabwe next week at Trent Bridge. So I'm absolutely delighted. In fact, I want England to lose just because it will make me happier than because I'll be not having to watch Doctor Who next Saturday.
Didn't the pronouns line stand out like a sore thumb, though, as a hangover from like 2017, 2018 or something like that?
Ouch.
Yeah, I almost choked.
Backward thinking from the crumbled, failed, woke era. It's all bleeding out now and has been for some months. And obviously this was recorded a year ago, probably written 2.5 years ago. Even so, they could have taken it out because it just sounds bloody silly now whenever you hear it.
It was like nails. It was like scraping your nails on a blackboard. That's how out of context it was, and it made me choke on my rich. It really made me choke on my rich tea biscuit. It was quite.
Oh, I tell you, that's high. That's a higher level of emotional engagement. When it makes you choke on your rich tea biscuit, there's only several ways that can happen. None of them good.
No.
I want to take the time just to say thank you to Lord Thoth and all of our moderators here on the Type 40 YouTube and Rumble channels for your service and your vigilance there, fielding some of the comments. We've had some wild ones tonight, but we've got some good ones come through as well, and lots of new names. That's always good to see as well. And all opinions are welcome. Of course they are. There's been a pretty general consensus here on this one this time, but there isn't always. Who knows how we'll take the finale. You have to wait and see.
Matt loved it. Matt loved it. He's the optimistic one. I can tell. Just look at that face. He thought this was brilliant. This is like this is
it was
Andrzani level, just genius.
It was Shakespeare written by monkeys.
Type 40 Live, as always, is your companion to this new season, for better or for worse, with no party lines, no beef, no bullshit, just the best in news, views, nostalgia, discussions, and banter. Every Monday and Thursday from 8 p.m. there, we're back with the early edition in just a couple of days' time with other panelists and further views. Maybe we'll have thought some of it through. Maybe some of it will start to make sense. Maybe there'll be a line.
Maybe some of it won't.
That makes its way from the back of your mind to the front, or from the front to the back, and something else connects somewhere. Thank you to everybody who's been on the panel with us this time. We made it, everyone. We made it, Charlotte. Not long till the end now. It's great to have all of your company. Well, Charlotte, I'll see you on Monday, no doubt.
You will.
And Matt and Gary, I'll probably catch up with you later in the week. It's good to see you both. David made it through as well. We'll probably have you with us maybe on Monday. I don't know. It depends on whether he's managed to pull himself out.
Sorry.
We'll be talking about the
Maltesers.
ratings, won't we?
Yeah, oh, lovely
And-
ratings.
Oh, yes, you are.
Wonderful.
And
Wild
obviously,
card.
and obviously, yeah, thanks again to Chris, the mighty Bolstrek, for making it here to chat with us just for a little while, and for the
All hail
contributions,
Bolstrek.
the invaluable contributions of the rabbi from another planet's Fila Betkin. You know, somebody said to me a couple of weeks ago about this, oh, what do you think is going to happen in the finale? And people mentioned the Rani quite a lot. But somebody messaged me earlier on who's like not a big Doctor Who fan, just a casual. And they said, oh, seen Doctor Who yet? The rabbi's in it. I thought, wow.
That would be great. I would pay money to see that.
Listen, I would not get the task with Shooty. I think he would touch me inappropriately. Right?
I thought to myself,
I
well,
think he'll be friendly. It'll be just him being nice. I'm like, no, Shooty, don't.
my first thought, Rabbi, when I got this message, obviously they meant the Rani. My first thought was, the rabbi's in it. He kept that quiet. And that's not like him.
I tell you, well, wouldn't you if you were in it? It's like being a house guest at Maxwell Michael Jackson. You don't want people to know.
Had Mrs. Flood bi-regenerated into the rabbi, this conversation would have gone very differently.
Oh, yeah. That would have turned the series around right away.
No, if only. If only. That could also sum up this entire era, couldn't it? Look, we'll see you in the comments with more feedback, and let us know what you think we may have missed on the episode, whether you liked it or loathed it or whatever in between. This is genuinely a home to all opinions here at Type 40 Live. We'll hit you back in the comments. We'll be back on Monday from 8 p.m. with yet more Doctor Who coverage with Anthony's going to be on the show as well, so I can't wait to see what he thinks about that. It should be a laugh. But for now, that does wrap it all up. We always have the time, if you have the space, here at Type 40 Live. 2 more to go, everybody. Let battle commence. We'll see you in the comments. Bye-bye.